Behind us is my very good friend, Peter Gregory Nahola, who was born, I believe, in 1905, passed away in 1914. He was 9 years old. And no one's quite sure what the cause was. Could have been smallpox, could have been something. A tradition here at Kawaihaau Church is the week of Christmas, the kupuna wahine from the church come to the graveyard and decorate all the graves of children who have been buried here. Now obviously, Peter has been here for such a long time. His living relatives are no longer around, and there's no one here to take care of him. And so one night, while the Hawaiian women are decorating Peter's grave, a security guard who's been newly hired chases them away. They try to make him understand that it's a church tradition, but he's not Hawaiian and he doesn't care, and actually kicks one of the presents away from Peter's grave. The women take off cursing and yelling at him in Hawaiian, but he doesn't care. 3 o'clock in the morning, the security guard returns for his second round, comes through those hedges, passes Peter's grave, sees nothing. And he says he chuckled to himself, "I showed them." As he turned around to walk away in this direction, he said he was stopped by a little Hawaiian boy who had his hands out like this. And with deep, soulful eyes, tears brimming, the Hawaiian boy looked at him and said, "Why, mister? Why did you do that?" The security guard looks down at the Hawaiian boy and says, "What do you mean, why?" As he turns around to walk back that way, the same Hawaiian boy is now standing behind him, hands out. "Why, mister?" The security guard realizes at that moment the boy that's standing in front of him, in the back and in the front, is the boy who's in that picture. The security guard says he ran screaming through the graveyard, and all of a sudden, when he looked behind him, there was this huge black tornado chasing after him with a cacophony of children's voices yelling at him, "Why?" He tripped and fell all over himself into a fetal position in the lane leading out to Punch Bowl. He realized that he was bleeding so badly that blood was actually dripping into his shoe. At that point, a flashlight falls on him. As he looks up, it's a police officer who says, "Are you okay?" The security guard slowly stands up and dusts himself off and says, "Yeah, I'm fine." And the officer says, "Well, the senior citizens who live across the street say they can hear the sounds of children screaming in the graveyard. Have you heard the sounds of children?" The security guard says, "No, I haven't heard anything." And the police officer looks down at the security guard's legs and sees that he's bleeding, pants cut up. An ambulance is called, and about 40 minutes later, as the security guard is sitting in the ambulance, confessing to the police officer what he had done, the officer looked at him and said, "You idiot. Don't you know you never go to a Hawaiian graveyard and upset the spirits of Hawaiian children? And certainly, you don't make the Hawaiian women mad. They'll put a curse on you. You deserve it." A few days later, the Hawaiian women, late at night, sneak into the graveyard to leave presents on Peter's grave, but someone has already beaten them to it. There's presents, there's candy, there's a small Christmas tree, and there's a tag on the present that says, "So you may never have to ask why again, Melvin." Melvin is the name of the security guard who chased the women away and who himself got chased away by Peter. But now, he and the women and Peter are best friends. One last thing about that story is that a lot of times when children pass away, it's so sudden and so traumatic, they don't realize what's happening, and they tend to hang out after they're gone. There have been many instances where children who attend the school behind me have had picnics here in the afternoon, and when it's time to put everything away and leave, they always tell the teachers, "What about Peter? Is Peter coming?" And for many years, the teachers had no idea about who Peter was until they finally saw the headstone. Peter sometimes would show up in circle time in these classrooms. Oftentimes, he'd be seen inside the window of this classroom. Coincidentally, a few years ago, this fence line used to be right up to the point where I'm standing at. One summer, kids are digging up where the tetherball post is at, and they uncovered 5 headstones. When the church archivist did more research, they found out there were 15 bodies underneath that old playground structure itself. And so out of respect, they moved the fence back. And that's the reason why it's where it's at. And when they moved away some of the high grass from the tree, that's when they found Peter's grave. Peter had actually been included in those burials. So if you're here one night and you happen to see Peter's grave, make sure that you have some candy or some mints. It'll make him happy and probably prevent him from following you home.